At the end of August 1973, 40-year-old bank clerk Philip McDowell returned with his wife and two teenage children from their annual holiday in Wales. Within 6 weeks, his wife had left him, he'd lost his job, his mortgage was in arrears, and he was charged with abducting a 14-year-old girl, Fiona, who lived in the same road. The girl has not been interfered with sexually and makes no complaints of his having made advances to her, but she has claimed that Philip McDowell persuaded her to go with him without her mother's consent to Scotland in search of her father, whom she's never seen and whom she until recently believed to be dead. McDowell denies this, saying that on the contrary it was Fiona who persuaded him. The trial is now in its third day.
You say you were unsettled when you came back from your family holiday in August. Was your marriage positively unhappy?
Well, not unhappy as such. I wasn't really sure what it was. All I knew was that I had to get away from Fulchester. Well, once I got up to Scotland, after Fiona had left, I began to see things more clearly. It was... well, it had become more of a routine than a marriage. I hadn't been making a proper effort. I let everything get into a routine.
You weren't sharing at all in each other's interests?
Well, it was all right on holiday with the children, going for walks and picnics and things in Wales, but when we got home, well, my wife went back to the housework and I got on with the car.
Did your wife take any interest in your car, your hobby?
No, she said it was silly.
Didn't she ever go out for runs with you in your car?
No. Then you can see her point of view. Old cars do break down, and some people think they're funny.
Did your car break down a lot?
Oh, no, an Austin 7's very reliable, if you take care of it, that is. I left it out all night during that hard winter we had, 1962, was it, when we had 20 degrees of frost. Well, it started first thing in the morning as soon as I touched the starter.
Anyhow, your wife never took any interest in your motoring activities. Now, did she nag you about the car?
Well, not nag as such. She used to say, why couldn't we get a proper car? You can see her point of view.
And what else was going on when you came back from your holiday which made you feel unsettled? Did you get on well with the children?
Well, they're good kids, like any other teenagers. Robert's 16 now. Alison's 13. Well, they're noisy. They like playing records, watching television, never going out and doing something. I let it get a bit on top of me.
So what you're saying is that you realized all this when you were up in Scotland and had time to think, and that's why you came back, instead of driving perpetually into the sunset in your 35-year-old motor car.
Oh, yes. And the fact that, well, my family is my responsibility, and I'd left them, well, virtually destitute, let's admit it.
Your wife has not come back to you?
No. She and Alison are staying at her mother's.
Mr. Golding, anything else?
No, my lord.
Very well, you may return to the dock.
I call Robert McDowell.
Yes.
Robert McDowell, please.
You are Mr. Philip McDowell's son.
Yes, sir.
You're 16.
Yes, sir.
You believe in God and understand the meaning of an oath?
Well, I think I believe enough to take the oath, if that's what you mean.
Very well, let him be sworn.
Take the Bible in your right hand and read aloud the words on the card.
I swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
You are Robert Edwin McDowell, the son of the accused?
Yes, sir.
And where do you live?
The Firs, 19 Stapleton Avenue, Fulchester.
Yes. Were you aware that your father intended to go on this run to Scotland? That is to say, aware before he left?
No, sir.
After your father had left, did your mother stay at home?
Yes, Alice and my sister stayed until Friday, just before Dad got back.
And what happened when your father came home?
Well, we knew he was all right because he telephoned on Tuesday and told us he was in Scotland.
You hadn't been to the police by then?
No. We were going to report him missing the following day. We'd decided that, but then he phoned, so we didn't.
Your mother and Alison left before your father got back. Why was that?
Well, it was all the gossip. That Dad had actually run off with Fiona Sumner. Well, they were behaving like lunatics, so they just walked out of the house.
They believed it, you didn't.
Well, it's a question of giving someone a hearing before you convict them, isn't it, sir?
Yes, yes, it is indeed. Yes. Mr. Golding.
Did your father tell you something about what he'd been doing?
My lord, the witness really cannot be allowed to answer that question.
Mr. Golding?
My lord, my learned friend, in cross-examining my client, has suggested that certain of his evidence is a recent fabrication. Well, in these circumstances, I am clearly entitled to call evidence of a previous consistent nature.
Yes, yes, that must be right. Mustn't it, Mr. Lloyd?
Yes, my lord, but only if the questions and the answers are confined to statements which I have suggested to be recent fabrications.
Will you now answer the question?
Yes, sir. He told me that it was Fiona's idea that she should come, and that she told him, that's Dad, that her mother said it was okay. He said he and Fiona hadn't been up to anything.
Any what?
He didn't say, sir, but I think he was referring to sex.
I think you should know that your father is not charged with any sexual offence. Anything else, Mr. Golding?
No, my lord.
Your mother and sister have not stood by your father. They've left.
Yes, sir. Dad thinks they might come back, but I know they won't.
You, however, have decided to stick by him.
Yes, sir.
I take it, then, that you don't disapprove of what your father has done.
Well, it's not all his fault for a start, sir. Well, all the neighbours are jabbering away, blaming him for everything, calling him a disgusting pig. But all he's done is make a break from a bad situation with a girl looking for an imaginary father.
What do you mean by a bad situation?
Well, sir, as I see it now, we'd got ourselves into two camps. There was Mum and Ali on one side, who didn't take the slightest interest in anything except household equipment, women's magazines and pop music. But they did care about what the other cared about. And neither did we care about them. Mum and Ali did all the cooking and so on. We ate the food, took it all for granted, Dad and I. But we even ignored each other.
Oh, the question I had asked was that I take it you don't disapprove of what your father's done. Well, you've answered that. But would I be right in saying that you actually approve of what he's done?
Well, yes, I do. Well, it was the right thing to do. Bring everything to an issue. Well, if Mum could only see it, and Alison, it could be all right now.
You approve of your father's actions, and you've decided to see him through thick and thin.
Yes, sir.
And that is why you are lying for him, is it not? Lying about what he told you.
Is he allowed to say that?
Yes, he is. Just answer.
Well, the answer is that I'm not lying.
What do you think of these proceedings?
Oh, stupid. My father's a normal man. He was fed up. It's all a waste of time.
You feel scorn for the whole proceeding?
Yes, sir.
Must make it much easier to tell lies in proceedings which you hold in such scorn.
I'm not lying, sir. And Fiona knows it.
I have no re-examination.
Very well, you may leave the witness box.
I call Alison McDowell.
Alison McDowell, please.
Alison, you're 13, is that right?
Yes.
Do you understand the meaning of an oath in court?
Yes, it means I swear to tell the truth.
Very well.
Take the Bible in your right hand and read aloud the words on the card.
I promise before Almighty God to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Alison, what is your full name?
Susan Alison McDowell,
Where do you live?
86 Fulchester Towers.
With your grandmother?
And my mum, too.
Did your father ever say anything to you about Noel Dobbs' record run in his Austin 7 from Fulchester to John O'Groats?
Yes.
When was that?
It was near the end of August.
And what did he say?
He asked if I'd like to go with him to John O'Groats to beat Noel Dobbs' record.
And what did you say?
I said I didn't want to.
Can you remember exactly what you said?
Yes, I said he must be joking.
You said he must be joking. Did he ever ask you again about going?
You mean about me going? No.
Did he ever again discuss the trip with you?
Yes.
When?
The week before he went.
Went to Scotland?
Yes.
Yes.
And what did he say?
He said Fiona Sumner had asked if she could go with him.
Fiona Sumner had asked if she could go with him. Go on.
And would I mind if she went?
You knew Fiona Sumner?
She's at school. Only one form higher than me.
Yes, I see.
And what did you say?
I said no. I didn't mind.
Can you remember precisely what you said?
I think I said I couldn't care less.
You weren't interested in your father's old motor car?
Thank you.
You've left home with your mother, as I understand it.
Yes.
You're close to your mother, you're fond of her, you're closer to her than you are to your father.
I suppose so.
Now, did you tell your mother that your father had asked you to go to John O'Groats?
No.
No. Did you tell your mother that he told you that Fiona Sumner had asked if she could go with him?
No.
No. You're so close to your mother, but you didn't mention it?
No.
No. Why not?
I don't know.
When your father disappeared, you must have guessed that he'd gone to Scotland.
Yes.
And you noticed that Fiona was not at school?
Yes.
And you must have thought that Fiona had gone with your father?
Yes.
Well, why didn't you then tell your mother?
But your mother must have noticed, you must have noticed that your mother was worried and upset. And are you really saying that you didn't tell her what you've told us now?
I never told anyone except the solicitor.
You mean your father's solicitor?
Yes.
Then why did you not tell anyone?
I didn't dare.
What do you think about all this trial?
It's my fault.
How can it be your fault?
Well, if I said I'd go, none of this would have happened. Everything would have been all right.
Would you have enjoyed the trip?
No, I wouldn't. I don't like Dad's old banger. I suppose I should have said I'd go all the same, just to please him.
And is it because you feel guilty, feel responsible, that you're inventing these conversations with your father?
I'm not inventing them. Honest.
Aren't you?
No.
I have no re-examination, my lord.
Yeah, well, you may go. I expect you should be at school, shouldn't you? Yes, she can be released, can't she?
Please, I'd like to stay.
Well, that's up to your mother, your parents, and your school. As far as I'm concerned, you are free to stay or go as you please.
Thank you.
I call Archibald Sumner.
Ah, the man who is reputed to be Fiona's long-lost father.
Indeed, my lord.